Relationships can be the source of our greatest joys and deepest sorrows. When love becomes toxic, it clouds our minds, drains our energy, and keeps us from being our true selves. But the ancient wisdom of the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, offers profound guidance to overcome the pain of toxic love and reclaim inner peace. 1. Control what you can. In relationships, especially toxic ones, it's easy to get caught in the trap of trying to control or change the other person. We focus on what they should do differently, how they should treat us, and how we wish they would change. This is where the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, becomes invaluable. He teaches us that true strength and peace come from recognizing what we can and cannot control. His words, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength," remind us of the Stoic principle that we are only responsible for ourselves, our thoughts, emotions, and actions. When love turns toxic, we often fall into the cycle of trying to mold the other person into what we believe will fix the relationship. We may argue, try to convince them to change their behavior, or even manipulate situations in an attempt to achieve peace. However, Marcus Aurelius tells us that this is wasted energy. In the end, we cannot control how someone else behaves or what they choose to do. Their actions are entirely beyond our grasp. The only thing we can control is our reaction, our thoughts, and how we respond to the circumstances around us. This lesson becomes critical when dealing with toxic love. Imagine how much pain and frustration we cause ourselves by trying to change things we have no power over. Every time we get upset because someone isn't acting the way we want, we are giving away our inner peace. Marcus Aurelius calls us to shift that energy inward. Rather than focusing on changing the other person, we need to focus on ourselves, on how we process the relationship, how we react to negative behaviors, and what boundaries we need to set for our emotional well-being. He also encourages us to accept the truth about the situation. If the relationship is harmful and draining, we must acknowledge that we cannot control or fix the other person. Instead, we must cultivate resilience and peace within ourselves. This means letting go of the illusion of control and embracing the fact that the only power we have is over our own mind. By mastering our thoughts, we can protect our peace, no matter how chaotic the external world becomes. Marcus Aurelius teaches that our mental clarity and strength come from realizing that we control only ourselves, not others. When we truly understand this, we can detach from toxic dynamics and find the inner strength needed to either transform the relationship or walk away from it. 2. Recognize your worth. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, devoted much of his teachings to understanding self-worth and the importance of maintaining one's dignity and integrity. In his writings, he emphasized that relationships, whether romantic, familial, or social, should elevate, not diminish us. His advice, associate with people who are likely to improve you, speaks to the need for companionship that uplifts and supports our growth, rather than bringing us down or draining us emotionally. In toxic relationships, it's common to lose sight of our own value. Many people find themselves trapped in a cycle of mistreatment, hoping that with time or effort, the situation will improve. This happens because toxic love often erodes our self-worth, making us believe that we must endure suffering or compromise our needs to maintain the relationship. We might tell ourselves, things will get better, or, if I change, maybe they'll love me the way I want. But Seneca's wisdom reminds us that this kind of thinking is not only damaging but unnecessary. According to Seneca, we deserve relationships that nurture and respect who we are at our core. If a relationship constantly leaves us feeling drained, anxious, or unworthy, it's a sign that something is wrong. Love should be a source of mutual growth and joy, not a weight that suffocates our sense of self. Toxic relationships do the opposite. They diminish our self-esteem, make us question our value, and leave us feeling powerless. Seneca's teachings encourage us to recognize our own worth and not sacrifice our self-respect for the sake of maintaining a harmful connection. True love, he would argue, is not about enduring endless struggle or suffering in silence. It is about mutual respect, where both individuals lift each other up. When you recognize your own value, you begin to understand that you deserve better than to be in a relationship where your worth is constantly questioned or ignored. He also reminds us that compromising ourselves for the sake of love is never worth it. A relationship should enhance our lives, helping us to become better versions of ourselves. It should bring peace, not turmoil. If we stay in a situation where we are not valued, we are not just hurting ourselves. We are denying the possibility of finding a relationship where we are genuinely appreciated and loved for who we are. Ultimately, Seneca's advice is clear. Know your worth, and do not allow anyone to make you feel less than you are. You are worthy of a love that respects, uplifts, and honors you, and you should never settle for anything less. 3. Detach from unhealthy attachments. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the most respected Stoic philosophers, offers profound wisdom on the concept of detachment and inner freedom. His life itself is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, rising from bondage to philosophical greatness. One of his core teachings revolves around the idea that true freedom is found within and is not dependent on external circumstances. He famously said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It can be won only by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." This is a lesson particularly relevant to relationships, especially when they become toxic and damaging. In toxic relationships, many of us hold on to the hope that things will change, or that we can somehow fix the other person. We convince ourselves that if we just try harder, or stay a little longer, the situation will improve. This attachment to hope, and the belief that we can control someone else's behavior or emotions, is what keeps us trapped. Epictetus, however, teaches that this mindset only leads to suffering. The more we cling to things beyond our control, the more we lose our inner peace. Detachment, according to Epictetus, is not about indifference or cold-heartedness. It's about recognizing the limitations of our power. We cannot control how someone else acts or whether they will change. We cannot force another person to treat us with kindness or respect. What we can control, however, is our own response, our own mindset, and our willingness to let go when a situation is no longer healthy. True freedom, in Epictetus's view, comes from releasing what no longer serves us. In toxic love, this lesson is crucial. Many times people stay in relationships that are clearly harmful because they are attached to the idea of what the relationship could be, rather than accepting what it is. This attachment to an idealized future prevents us from making the difficult but necessary decision to detach and move on. We hold on out of fear of being alone, fear of failure, or fear of the unknown. Epictetus calls on us to release these fears and recognize that freedom lies in our ability to let go of unhealthy attachments. By detaching from the need to control others or to force a relationship to work, we reclaim our power. It's a process of focusing on what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and emotions, and surrendering what we cannot. When we learn to detach from toxic relationships, we make room for something far more important: our own peace and well-being. Letting go of unhealthy attachments is not an act of weakness, but a courageous step toward reclaiming our freedom and protecting our inner harmony. Epictetus reminds us that by prioritizing our inner peace, we gain true control over our lives and create space for healthier, more fulfilling relationships in the future. 4. Embrace impermanence. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher-emperor, frequently pondered the transient nature of life and relationships. In his famous meditations, he often reflected on how the universe is in a constant state of change, teaching us that nothing is permanent. His words, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it," serve as a powerful reminder that everything around us, including the people we love and the relationships we invest in, is subject to the natural cycle of change. In toxic relationships, this understanding becomes particularly important, as it can free us from the fear and suffering that often accompany the idea of loss. Toxic love can create a deep sense of attachment, leading us to hold on to relationships long after they've stopped serving us. We fear losing the person, even when the relationship brings more harm than good. This fear of loss keeps us trapped, making us cling to something that may not be healthy for us. We might ask ourselves, what if I never find love again? Or, what if I regret letting go? These thoughts are rooted in the illusion that love, or any human connection, can be permanent. But Marcus Aurelius teaches us to embrace the impermanence of all things. When we understand that everything is temporary, including relationships, we gain the power to let go of those that are toxic. Instead of seeing the end of a relationship as a failure or something to fear, we can view it as a natural part of life's ebb and flow. Some relationships are meant to last a lifetime, while others are simply lessons. Temporary experiences meant to teach us something about ourselves, about love, or about the world around us. Embracing impermanence allows us to release the fear of endings and focus on what we can learn from each relationship. Marcus Aurelius encourages us to shift our mindset away from clinging to what we cannot hold forever, and instead, focus on our thoughts, the one thing we truly control. Our life is what our thoughts make it, he says, reminding us that it's not the end of the relationship that causes suffering, but our resistance to change. When we fear impermanence, we create unnecessary pain by trying to hold on to something that was never meant to last. But when we embrace change, we allow ourselves to flow with life rather than resist it. By accepting that some relationships are temporary, we free ourselves from the suffering caused by toxic love. We can acknowledge the relationship for what it was, a chapter in our life, perhaps a difficult one, but also a learning experience. Letting go is not about forgetting or erasing the past, but about accepting that the time has come to move forward. In doing so, we open ourselves to new possibilities, new connections, and new growth. Ultimately, Marcus Aurelius teaches us that impermanence is not something to fear, but to embrace. When we accept that change is the natural order of the universe, we liberate ourselves from the attachments that hold us back, and we can approach relationships with a healthier, more balanced perspective. 5. Build emotional resilience. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, placed immense value on emotional resilience, recognizing it as an essential skill for navigating life's inevitable challenges. He believed that just as physical labor strengthens the body, emotional difficulties fortify the mind. His words, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body," remind us that the hardships we face, including the pain of toxic love, are not just obstacles but opportunities for growth and self-improvement. In toxic relationships, emotional exhaustion is common. We can feel drained, constantly battling negative feelings like anxiety, sadness, and self-doubt. Toxic love can cause us to question our worth, leaving us emotionally vulnerable. However, Seneca teaches that instead of allowing this pain to defeat us, we can use it as a tool to build resilience. Rather than fearing hardship, he encouraged us to prepare for it, knowing that life will inevitably bring its share of difficulties. Emotional resilience, according to Seneca, is about training the mind to be strong in the face of adversity. Much like we strengthen our bodies through physical exercise, we can strengthen our emotional core by facing and overcoming challenges. Toxic love, while painful, can be seen as an intense form of emotional labor. One that, if approached with the right mindset, can help us develop a greater capacity to cope with life's ups and downs. Seneca's advice is especially relevant for those struggling with the emotional toll of a toxic relationship. It's easy to feel defeated, as though the relationship has consumed all your energy and left you powerless. But Seneca would argue that the pain you're experiencing can serve as a catalyst for personal growth. By enduring and processing this emotional turmoil, you're building the mental toughness needed to face future challenges with greater strength and composure. Resilience doesn't mean being unaffected by pain or pretending that toxic love doesn't hurt. It means acknowledging the difficulty while knowing that it won't break you. It's about accepting that while the pain is real, you have the power to rise above it. Each time you confront the emotional wounds caused by toxic love, you're learning how to better handle life's inevitable hardships. With each difficulty, your emotional core grows stronger, preparing you for whatever comes next. Seneca's wisdom also highlights the importance of seeing adversity not as something to avoid, but as something to embrace. Toxic love may seem like a storm that's wreaking havoc on your emotional world, but within that storm lies the opportunity to develop resilience. Every moment of emotional pain can be transformed into a lesson, every challenge into a stepping stone for your personal development. By focusing on building emotional resilience, you can shift your perspective on toxic relationships. Instead of feeling trapped by the negativity, you can view it as a means to fortify your inner strength. Over time, this resilience will not only help you survive toxic love, but also thrive beyond it. You will find yourself better equipped to handle all of life's challenges, armed with the knowledge that no hardship is insurmountable. Through resilience, you gain the emotional tools necessary to maintain your well-being, no matter what trials life may bring. 6. Know when to walk away. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, emphasized the power of choice and the freedom that comes from making decisions aligned with our well-being. His life, marked by hardship and personal suffering as a former slave, gave him deep insight into the concept of control and autonomy. One of his most poignant teachings is, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. This may seem counterintuitive, but it speaks to the courage needed to make difficult choices, such as leaving a toxic relationship, despite what others may think or say. Toxic relationships are often filled with cycles of pain, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion. The idea of walking away can feel like giving up or even failing, especially if society or those around us expect us to endure. But Epictetus teaches that we always have a choice, and sometimes the wisest, most empowering choice is to walk away. Leaving a toxic relationship is not a sign of weakness or defeat. Rather, it is a courageous act of self-preservation and self-respect. The fear of being judged or seen as foolish can often hold us back. We worry about how others will perceive us, whether friends, family, or even society. Many people in toxic relationships feel pressure to stay, thinking that leaving will make them look like they couldn't make it work, or that they failed to uphold their commitment. But Epictetus reminds us that personal improvement and growth requires to be willing to be misunderstood or judged. It's more important to prioritize our own peace and well-being than to stay in a damaging situation for the sake of appearances. Walking away is not a failure. It's reclaiming your power. When we leave a toxic relationship, we are choosing ourselves, our mental health, and our inner peace. It's an act of strength to recognize that you deserve better than constant turmoil, manipulation, or mistreatment. Staying in a relationship that drains you emotionally, mentally, or even physically is not a noble sacrifice. It's allowing yourself to be diminished over time. Epictetus encourages us to understand that we are not trapped by circumstances unless we allow ourselves to be. We have the power to walk away from situations that harm us. Toxic love can make us feel powerless, as though we have no options but to stay and endure. However, Stoicism teaches that true power lies in recognizing what we can control. While we cannot change another person's behavior or fix a relationship that is inherently harmful, we can control whether or not we remain in that situation. Choosing to walk away from a toxic relationship is an act of reclaiming that control. It's a declaration that you will no longer allow yourself to be mistreated or drained by someone else's actions. In doing so, You free yourself to pursue a life of peace, growth, and fulfillment. Walking away doesn't mean you've failed at love. It means you've succeeded in valuing yourself enough to seek a healthier path. Epictetus's wisdom reminds us that we always have a choice, even when it feels like we don't. By choosing to leave a toxic relationship, you are choosing to protect your peace, prioritize your happiness, and reclaim your personal power. You deserve a life filled with respect and tranquility, and sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away from what no longer serves you. 7. Practice forgiveness, but set boundaries. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, held the virtue of forgiveness in high regard. However, in his Stoic philosophy, forgiveness was not a passive act of allowing others to continue mistreating us. Instead, it was a conscious decision to rise above the actions of others, while at the same time, protecting ourselves from further harm. One of his most famous teachings on this subject is, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." This powerful statement encourages us to forgive those who have wronged us, but also to ensure that we do not become like them or allow their behavior to continue affecting us negatively. Forgiveness is a deeply healing act. When someone hurts us, whether in a toxic relationship or otherwise, holding on to anger, resentment, or bitterness can consume us from within. Marcus Aurelius understood this, recognizing that harboring negative emotions only prolongs our own suffering. Forgiveness, then, is a way of freeing ourselves from the emotional chains of the wrongs done to us. By letting go of resentment, we reclaim our inner peace and no longer allow the actions of others to control our emotions. However, forgiving someone does not mean allowing them to continue mistreating us. Marcus Aurelius's philosophy is clear. While we should forgive, we must also set boundaries. Forgiveness heals, but boundaries preserve our peace. In toxic relationships, it's crucial to remember that while we can forgive someone for their behavior, we do not have to accept it or tolerate ongoing mistreatment. Boundaries are essential to protect ourselves from further harm and ensure that we do not continue to be hurt in the same way. Setting boundaries is not about revenge or punishment. It's about self-respect and self-preservation. When Marcus Aurelius says, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury," he is advising us to rise above harmful behavior, to choose a higher path. Instead of seeking revenge or becoming consumed by the desire to retaliate, we can choose to be better, to act with integrity, and to protect our own well-being. This means establishing clear limits on what we will and will not accept in our relationships. In toxic love, the cycle of hurt and forgiveness can often become unhealthy. We forgive hoping that things will change, but without boundaries, we end up being hurt again and again. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that true forgiveness must be accompanied by action, by setting firm, clear boundaries to prevent further mistreatment. Forgiveness is not about letting someone off the hook for their actions, but about freeing ourselves from the emotional weight of those actions. At the same time, boundaries are our way of ensuring that we maintain our peace, our dignity, and our sense of self-worth. Practicing forgiveness allows us to move on from the pain of the past, but boundaries ensure that we do not allow the same pain to revisit us. When we forgive without setting limits, we risk becoming vulnerable to the same hurt. Marcus Aurelius teaches us to strike a balance between the two, choosing to forgive, but also choosing to protect ourselves. Forgiveness is an internal process, one that brings healing and emotional freedom. Boundaries, on the other hand, are external actions that safeguard our well-being. Together, they create a strong foundation for personal peace and resilience. By following Marcus Aurelius's wisdom, we can practice forgiveness in a way that empowers us, while also ensuring that we never again allow others to disrupt our inner harmony. Forgiveness heals, but boundaries preserve your peace. Through both, we can cultivate a life of balance, strength, and self-respect. 8. Focus on self-improvement. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, consistently emphasized the importance of personal growth and self-improvement. His famous words, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live," remind us that life is a continuous journey of growth and discovery. In the context of relationships, especially toxic ones, this advice holds great wisdom. Toxic love often causes us to lose sight of ourselves as we become consumed by the unhealthy dynamics of the relationship. We may spend so much time and energy trying to fix or change the other person that we forget the most important work, our own self-improvement. In toxic relationships, it's easy to fall into the trap of neglecting ourselves. We get caught up in the emotional turmoil, putting the needs of the relationship or the other person above our own well-being. We may even sacrifice our values, goals, and personal growth for the sake of maintaining a connection that is ultimately harmful. But Seneca reminds us that no relationship should come at the cost of our own progress. Our primary responsibility in life is to ourselves, to continuously learn, grow, and become the best version of who we are. Seneca's philosophy teaches us that investing in ourselves is not selfish, it's essential. When we focus on personal growth, we become more self-aware, emotionally resilient, and mentally strong. These qualities help us recognize when a relationship is toxic, and they give us the strength to walk away when needed. Self-improvement builds our sense of worth and fulfillment from within, so we don't have to rely on external sources, like a toxic partner, for validation or happiness. One of the reasons people stay in toxic relationships is the fear of being alone, or feeling unworthy of love. We might think that without this relationship, we'll never find happiness or fulfillment. But Seneca teaches us that true fulfillment comes from within, not from others. When we invest in our personal development, we become self-sufficient in our happiness. We realize that we don't need someone else, especially someone who treats us poorly, to feel valuable or complete. By focusing on self-improvement, we also create healthier patterns for future relationships. When we prioritize our own growth, we attract relationships that align with our values and bring out the best in us. We're less likely to tolerate toxic behavior because we've built a strong foundation of self-worth and self-respect. Seneca's wisdom helps us see that personal growth is not just about improving ourselves for the sake of it. It's about creating a life filled with meaningful connections, healthy relationships, and inner peace. Investing in yourself is one of the greatest acts of self-love. When you prioritize your own growth, you take control of your life and your happiness. Toxic relationships, on the other hand, often leave us feeling powerless, stuck, and emotionally drained. But by shifting the focus back to ourselves, we regain the power that we've given away. We remember that our worth is not dependent on the approval or affection of another person, but on how much we invest in our own well-being. Seneca's advice, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live," reminds us that the journey of self-improvement is ongoing. There is always something to learn, something to improve, and something to strive for. Toxic love might try to pull us away from that path, but Stoicism guides us back, encouraging us to keep growing, no matter the circumstances. Ultimately, by focusing on self-improvement, you'll find that you no longer need to cling to toxic relationships to feel fulfilled. You'll realize that your happiness comes from within, and you'll have the strength and clarity to let go of anything that doesn't support your growth. Personal development is the key to freedom, fulfillment, and a life of inner peace. 9. Practice patience. Epictetus, a prominent Stoic philosopher, recognized that patience is a crucial virtue in navigating life's challenges, particularly in the realm of relationships. His insightful observation, "No great thing is created suddenly," underscores the reality that meaningful change and healing require time and consistent effort. This principle is especially relevant when it comes to recovering from toxic love. Many individuals who have experienced toxic relationships often find themselves in a cycle of emotional pain and confusion, longing for immediate relief. However, Epictetus reminds us that true healing is a gradual process, one that necessitates patience, self-compassion, and perseverance. Healing from toxic love is rarely an overnight endeavor. When we exit a toxic relationship, we often carry emotional scars, unresolved feelings, and a sense of loss. The wounds inflicted by betrayal, manipulation, or emotional abuse take time to mend. It is during this healing journey that we must practice patience with ourselves. It's easy to become frustrated or disheartened when progress seems slow, or when we experience setbacks. Yet, Epictetus teaches us that patience is a form of strength, enabling us to face our challenges with resilience and grace. To cultivate patience in the healing process, it's essential to give ourselves grace. This means allowing ourselves to feel our emotions fully, whether it's sadness, anger, or confusion, without judgment. Emotions are a natural part of the healing process, and suppressing them can lead to further emotional distress. Instead, we should embrace our feelings, understanding that they are valid and an integral part of our journey toward recovery. This self-acceptance fosters an environment where true healing can occur, allowing us to gradually process our experiences and move forward. Moreover, practicing patience also involves recognizing that growth is not linear. There will be good days and bad days, moments of clarity interspersed with times of doubt. Epictetus's wisdom encourages us to maintain perspective during these fluctuations. Healing is akin to nurturing a seed. It takes time for the roots to grow strong before we see the plant flourish above ground. Similarly, our emotional and mental recovery requires nurturing, reflection, and the understanding that true progress may not be immediately visible. In this journey, we can employ practical strategies to cultivate patience and foster healing. Journaling can be a powerful tool, allowing us to articulate our thoughts and feelings, track our progress, and reflect on our growth. Mindfulness practices, such as meditation or deep breathing, can help ground us in the present moment, alleviating anxiety about the future or regret about the past. Surrounding ourselves with supportive friends or communities can also provide encouragement and understanding, reminding us that we are not alone in our journey. Ultimately, Epictetus teaches us that healing from toxic love is an important journey that requires us to embrace patience and trust the process. The scars may fade, but they also serve as reminders of our strength and resilience. By giving ourselves the grace to heal and recognizing that true recovery is a gradual path, we can cultivate a sense of inner peace and empowerment. The lessons learned along the way will not only enrich our lives, but also prepare us for healthier, more fulfilling relationships in the future. 10. Cultivate gratitude. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor of Rome, frequently emphasized the importance of gratitude, especially during challenging times. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive." This simple yet profound statement encourages us to recognize the beauty in life, no matter how difficult our circumstances may seem. In the context of overcoming toxic love, cultivating gratitude can be a powerful tool for healing and personal growth. When we find ourselves in toxic relationships, it is easy to become overwhelmed by feelings of pain, resentment, or loss. We may fixate on what went wrong, what we have lost, or the ways we have been hurt. This mindset can lead to despair and negativity, making it difficult to move forward. However, Marcus Aurelius reminds us that by shifting our focus from what is missing to what is present, we can transform our emotional landscape. Gratitude helps us recognize the positive aspects of our lives, no matter how small they may seem. For example, consider taking a moment each day to reflect on the things for which you are grateful. This could be anything from supportive friends and family to the simple joys of nature or personal achievements. By intentionally acknowledging these positive elements, we cultivate a mindset that fosters peace and contentment. This practice can be particularly beneficial when navigating the aftermath of toxic love, as it encourages us to appreciate the lessons learned and the strength gained from our experiences. Moreover, gratitude can enhance our emotional resilience. When we acknowledge and appreciate the good in our lives, we become less susceptible to the negative emotions associated with toxic relationships. It empowers us to recognize our worth and encourages us to seek out healthier, more fulfilling connections in the future. Gratitude shifts our perspective, allowing us to see beyond our immediate struggles and fostering a sense of hope and optimism for what lies ahead. In a practical sense, cultivating gratitude can be integrated into our daily routines. Keeping a gratitude journal is an effective way to document and reflect on the positive aspects of our lives. Each morning or evening, take a few minutes to jot down 3 things for which you are grateful. Over time, this practice will help rewire your thought patterns and create a more positive outlook on life. 11. Choose peace over chaos. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher known for his teachings on personal freedom and inner peace, profoundly stated, "Freedom and happiness are won by disregarding things beyond our control." This insight resonates deeply when navigating the tumultuous waters of toxic love. When relationships become chaotic and toxic, it is crucial to remember that we always have a choice. The choice to prioritize peace over chaos. In the throes of a toxic relationship, it's easy to become entangled in a whirlwind of emotions: anger, frustration, confusion, and sadness. These feelings can cloud our judgment and make us feel powerless. However, Epictetus reminds us that true freedom lies in our ability to control our responses, not the actions of others. By focusing on what we can control, our thoughts, emotions, and choices, we can reclaim our power and choose peace. Choosing peace means recognizing that chaos often stems from external circumstances and relationships that we cannot change. When love turns toxic, we may feel the urge to engage in endless battles, trying to fix the other person or the situation. Yet this often leads to more turmoil and heartache. Instead, Epictetus encourages us to step back and assess what truly matters. We can choose to disengage from the chaos and cultivate a sense of inner tranquility. To embody this choice, we must first practice self-awareness. Understanding our emotional triggers and recognizing when we are being drawn into chaos can help us create a conscious decision to step back. Engaging in mindfulness practices, such as meditation, deep breathing, or journaling, can provide the clarity needed to choose peace over chaos. These practices help ground us, allowing us to observe our emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. Establishing boundaries is an essential aspect of choosing peace. In toxic relationships, it is vital to define what behavior we will tolerate and what we will not. Setting clear boundaries protects our emotional well-being and allows us to disengage from toxic dynamics. When we assertively communicate our needs and limits, we reclaim our space and invite peace back into our lives. Ultimately, true love begins with inner peace. When we prioritize our well-being and choose to align ourselves with the Stoic path, we cultivate an environment where healthy, nurturing relationships can flourish. Choosing peace over chaos empowers us to pursue connections that enrich our lives rather than drain our energy. Epictetus's wisdom serves as a reminder that we have the power to choose our responses, regardless of the chaos surrounding us. By embracing this choice, we pave the way for a more fulfilling, peaceful existence. In the face of toxic love, we can reclaim our freedom, happiness, and inner tranquility by consciously choosing peace over chaos. Thank you for watching. If this Stoic relationship advice resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more wisdom from the Stoics. Remember, you always have the power to choose your own peace.